Before marriage certificates, religion, dating apps, and divorce courts, did ancient humans actually stay with one partner? It is a question that makes almost everyone uncomfortable because it challenges the very foundation of how we structure our lives today. We like to think our romantic choices are based on modern values, but what if they are actually scripts written tens of thousands of years ago? When we look back at the dawn of our species, the evidence is not as simple as a yes or a no. Maybe the answer is yes, because raising human children was an extremely difficult task that required a dedicated team. Or maybe the answer is no, because survival in a harsh, unpredictable world depended on group flexibility and shared resources rather than isolated couples. Perhaps the real answer is stranger and more complex than both of those options combined. By the end of this exploration, you will understand why modern love and the friction we feel in our relationships today may still carry the echoes of ancient survival instincts. We are going to peel back the layers of history to see if the one-partner ideal is a natural biological trait or a clever cultural invention. We often imagine the past through two very different and very extreme lenses. The first is the classic Stone Age romance. One loyal monogamous cave couple living in a small family unit, raising their children together until the end of their lives. We see this in movies and cartoons, and it makes us feel like the nuclear family is the natural state of humanity. The second extreme is the primitive chaos theory. A world with no rules, no commitment, and no exclusive bonds, where everyone was with everyone and nobody knew who their father was. However, the latest research into human evolution suggests that both of these images are probably too simple to be true. Ancient humans did not live like modern married couples in suburban houses, but they were also not living in a state of random chaotic mating. Human biology and anthropology suggest that long-term pair bonds actually mattered quite a bit, but they didn't look like a 1950s sitcom. Because human children require years of intensive care and protection, we fit into a specific range of species that utilize pair bonding as a survival strategy. However, how those bonds were practiced varied wildly depending on the environment and the culture. This is not a story about romance. It is a story about the brutal reality of survival. The core of the one-partner debate starts with a major problem: human babies. Human infants are among the most helpless creatures on the planet. Unlike a horse that can walk within hours of birth, a human child takes years to become even remotely self-sufficient. This biological reality changed everything for our ancestors. Our massive brains require an enormous amount of energy to develop, and that development happens mostly outside the womb. This made parenting less of a private romantic endeavor and more of a complex survival system. In the harsh environments of the Pleistocene, a single mother trying to forage for calories while carrying a heavy, dependent infant would have faced nearly impossible odds. This is where the value of a stable cooperation comes in. Having a second committed adult who is invested in the survival of that specific child significantly increased the chances of that child reaching adulthood. This investment is a key part of human evolution. However, we have to be careful with the nuance here. We should not assume that one father and one mother did everything alone. Ancient childcare was likely a group-based effort, often called alloparenting. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, and the wider tribe provided a safety net. So the first version of commitment in human history may not have been about the spark of love as we define it today. It was likely a strategic alliance designed for the sole purpose of keeping children alive in a world that was trying to kill them. This is where the story turns. Living with one partner did not necessarily mean forever. Scientifically, we must separate bond types. Social monogamy involves cohabitation and parenting. Genetic monogamy means only having children with one partner. The till death do us part approach is lifelong monogamy. Serial pair bonding was likely in ancient humans. They may create a strong, exclusive partnership for years when a youngster is vulnerable, but it may not last. Such complexity is often overlooked in modern life. Humans are inherently driven to pair connections, yet their duration and exclusivity have always been variable. Culture controls these relationships' protection or breakage. We adapt to our environment and are naturally primed for deep attachment. We handled old relationships differently as the environment or societal structure evolved. This raises an intriguing question. Why did so many later human societies allow many marriages if pair bonding helped us survive? How we eat and define power is the answer. Most humans were nomadic hunter-gatherers. In these small groups, teamwork was everything. Food, work, and protection were shared. Little ownership existed since you couldn't carry much. In this setting, interactions center on mutual aid and societal peace rather than resource domination. Everything changed when humans stopped moving and started farming. After settling down, we accumulated land, livestock, and wealth. Suddenly, inheritance was a major issue. He wanted his biological children to inherit the land he worked his whole life. Agriculture and property made marriage a legal and commercial contract rather than a survival tie. Marriage became more about families, territory, and power than two people. Some agricultural societies practiced polygyny, where affluent males had multiple wives to boost their workforce and heirs. Even in these cultures, most people stayed in pairs because they couldn't afford more than one. Once people owned the earth, ancient love altered forever. This inevitably causes jealousy. Possessiveness in early humans or modern habit. Evolution implies jealousy had profound survival origins. When resources were short, losing a spouse constituted a physical hazard as well as an emotional setback. Losing a mate might mean losing a food source, a child protector, or your tribe status. Thus, humans presumably acquired mate-guarding behaviors for biological insurance. Ancient humans lived in close-knit groups. Relationships were never private. It harmed group stability. A relationship dispute could escalate into tribe-threatening violence. Groups probably created the earliest partnership taboos to prevent this. Not because ancient humans were more moral than us. These norms were developed. They were formed because tangled emotions make humans dangerous. Social stability was as important as romance. The group might reduce disagreement and stay focused on survival by setting expectations about who belonged. Without a time machine, how do scientists know this? The fossil record and biological clues must be examined. A crucial clue is sexual dimorphism, the variation in body size between men and women. Males in animals with high partner rivalry are frequently larger and more aggressive than females. Our size difference from gorillas is negligible. A history of more collaboration and less aggressive rivalry for partners shows a pair bonding trend. Scientists study ancient DNA genetics and sibling patterns. A significant 2025 Royal Society B study compared the DNA of over 100 human societies to 34 non-human mammal species. They compared full-to-half sibling ratios within groups. Results were intriguing. Humans cluster closer to socially monogamous mammals than promiscuous or polygamous ones. Humans are diverse, yet their biology favors stable pairings. The structure of ancient households and burials can provide evidence. Archaeological discovery of couples or families buried together with shared goods demonstrate that the community valued these relationships after death. Truthfully, the evidence suggests a flexible system based on pair bonding, not a particular natural mode of life. This old past still deeply impacts us. Many modern dating difficulties stem from old inclinations in a new society. Because of our historical desire for emotional security and long-term mate trust, our ancestors raised children. Meanwhile, endless choice and digital connectivity might ignite other old desires for status or diversity. Jealousy hurts because losing a mate threatened our survival for 1,000,000 years. We care what friends and family think of our relationships, since social approval was formerly our only safety. Modern dating seems like a creation of modern culture, although its feelings are older than civilization. We use old software to use a new OS. Understanding this helps us recognize that the conflict between freedom and commitment is part of being human, not a failure. Did ancients have one partner? They weren't entirely monogamous as a current legal or religious system would require, but they weren't wholly random either. Environment certainly forced ancient people to create deep, meaningful pair connections. Survival was a team sport, and the next generation squad was most crucial. Some bonds lasted forever, while others were temporary. The pair bond has persisted throughout history, even in communities with more or less variation. Humans pair bond, culture change, and prioritize survival. In the midst, we formed ties strong enough to parent the most vulnerable children on Earth, yet flexible enough to survive a changing world. Maybe the actual question is whether modern humans are still trying to force ancient, fluid instincts into rigid modern standards, not if ancient humans had one mate. Our species is built for connection, but the world has always shaped it. Do you think humans are built for lifelong partners, or did society teach us that? Share in the comments.